Okay, welcome back to part two of my conversation with Magita. And I want to ask you this.
Okay.
You see, you are a member of the bar,
Yes, I am.
and you pay something like, my guess, 1,200 a year?
Yeah, around that.
Around that,
Yes.
all right? Can't remember. And since we have 22,000 lawyers, the bar collects something like 25 million a year.
Yes.
So the bar is very rich.
They have money. I would think so.
Okay, so my question to you is this. Besides organizing seminars and talk, which you have to pay, I'm not talking about that. How to improve your this, how to improve your that you have to pay. I'm not talking about that. What does the Bar Council do to you? Other than issuing practicing certificate, what do they do to you that you feel has immense benefit to you and the profession? Give me an example.
Okay, I think they have really done a good job in terms of resources they've provided.
Resources, like
Yes.
what?
So we have access to CLJ, we have access to quite a number of law journals, and I think that's quite good. That's impressive. At one point
When
of
you
time,
say you have access, who pays for it?
I think it's part of our subscription. Bar Council pays for it. So I think that's amazing stuff which they
Okay,
have done.
so that's good. So they have access to CLJ.
Yeah, and there's a few other search engines as well. And it's quite a number of it. I think they have like for Labour Court. I don't use them. I only use CLJ. Yeah, but they do. And even at one point, I think a few years ago, they even tried to provide LexisNexis. Of course, that didn't last long. But I think Bar Council did try to address these issues. And I think this stems from the issue of lack of resources, which small firms tend to face. So I feel in that sense, Bar Council did try to help mitigate the situation by providing this wealth of resources. That's one. And second, I think Bar Council also do have some form of subsidized courses. Where I think, I don't know the figures, but I think some of it is
No.
subsidized.
Well, okay. So you have access to law reports,
Yes.
right? But the profession has changed tremendously worldwide.
Yes.
You know, you have search engines, softwares, artificial intelligence. You have iMatters, a patent network. You have, for example, Thomson Reuters, and working closely with Microsoft on not just to search for cases, to summarize cases for you, to get the best presentation for you. They also do documentation, preparing of all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence has come strongly,
Yes.
you know. But I have not seen, I may be wrong, but I have not seen we moving in tandem with other jurisdictions.
Okay.
And it's not cheap, this software.
It
The
is.
training is not
Yeah,
cheap. The equipment is not cheap. So big firms may have the money,
Correct.
but that's not a level playing field. If big firms, they charge more money from multinational, they can do that.
Correct.
But what about ordinary lawyers? Don't you think the bar should do more towards getting these softwares, getting this training to prepare ourselves with more advanced way of doing work? No? But
Well-
they have a lot of money.
That is true. I mean, they do have money. I don't know if it's a lot for them to spend in that sense, but they do have funds.
You should ask.
Okay, but so far I don't see a problem in that sense. So that's why it never really caused me a concern.
You don't see because you don't do commercial work.
Well, when Dato see commercial work, what do you mean?
Commercial, precedents, research. For
Yeah, but I do that. So
progressing.
that's part of litigation. We do research and all. So you see, when you say about big firms using a form of, because I did work in a big firm as well. So I know the kind of systems we have. And some of it is just, it helps, of course, it helps you be a lot more organized in that sense, You can keep track of your billable hours. It helps in that sense. But in terms of quality of work, perhaps having more resources would help. But it's not something which Bar Council can step in and help. It's just whether you have the time for it.
No. I'm talking about resources now. It's not like resources before. Resources now is using artificial intelligence, using computers, very advanced computers to collate all this information. We don't have that.
But I don't think there's that many law firms which uses it as well. for us to say that the small
in
firms
Malaysia?
are now disadvantaged. Yeah.
In Malaysia?
Yeah.
Oh, but in Singapore they do.
Yeah, so maybe it's in Singapore, but if you were just to talk about within Malaysia itself, I don't think that many big law firms do the same thing.
Shouldn't
And
they?
we do have access to like ChatGPT, for example. If you want to talk, everyone has access to it. So if you want to say about being in a very uneven playing field in terms of small firms and big firms, I really don't think that's the case, at least not right now. I don't think that's the case.
So you don't think we are in any way disadvantaged by this?
Smaller firms right now, no. But maybe in the long run, maybe in years to come, maybe yes.
Okay.
But as of now, I don't think so. And that's probably why Bar Council has not picked up on it yet. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay. I don't know myself. That's why I asked you. I was just reading
Yeah.
what other jurisdictions have done.
Yeah.
Like,
But I think the judiciary has introduced like data sentencing.
No, I'm not talking about this.
Yeah. So like the judiciary has introduced those things, but I think in terms of legal law firms and all, I don't think so. I could be wrong. I stand corrected.
But maybe you should examine it.
Yeah,
see
compared
how-
to different jurisdictions, how it works to their advantage. Yeah.
Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to ask you is that I think there are too many lawyers, and that's my personal view.
Okay.
There's just too many, and there has to be a way of managing this because when you have too many, then it's difficult to assure quality.
That's true also.
And when quality suffers, the public suffers, justice suffers.
True.
So, what is your comment on that?
Well, I agree. There are a lot of lawyers, but I do think that everyone should be given equal opportunity. So, it shouldn't be a situation where we're saying that only straight A students are allowed to do law. I don't think it should be that case because I think law is not just about being book smart, it's also about being street smart. And I think like the late Karpal Singh was a really good example. And I know he could be 1 out of 1,000 or million, but that's still the case. So I feel the best way to probably manage quality would be everyone gets to be a lawyer, but the minute there's any complaint against them, like maybe judges should take note about when there's constant non-compliance with the rules of court, then maybe something needs to be done by Bar Council's disciplinary committee.
That's what they did to me. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but it should be. I think the best way to monitor and have a quality check is through Bar Council's disciplinary committee. So when there's a lot of complaints, have you complied? Is there a continuous disregard of the rules of court? Then yes, we should step in and do something. But I think to stop them before they can even start their legal journey, I don't think that's very fair.
Well, other places do that.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, in Japan, unless you're the top 10% of the university grads, you cannot do law.
Yeah, but just because.
No, wait a minute. In other countries, in America, for example, in some states, in England also, they are trying to make it, stringent quality.
Yes.
Because whilst you may have 1 or 2 odd cases where people who are not very, very top of the marks manage to become good lawyers,
Yeah.
but there are also many lawyers who do not do proper job at the expense of the client, at the expense of doing So you have to find a balance.
That is true.
Yeah, So entry into the profession, I think, has to be regulated more evenly.
Okay.
Don't you think so?
Well, so when that mean regulated, what do you mean? Do you
Yeah,
mean like
qualification.
you need a certain level of like
No,
straight
there has
A?
to be a proper entry points, a proper criteria.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe if
Now we have different criteria. You can have a bar exam. You
Okay,
can
yes,
have
okay.
CLP. Then you
Yes.
can have diploma. Then you can have. This sort of many entry points doesn't do well.
that point I completely agree.
Which one you agree?
I agree on we shouldn't be having all different entry points. There should be one standardized exam for everyone. So if that's what Datuk mean, then yes, I agree. So if someone were to tell me, only 10 straight A students for your O-levels can go into law, I would disagree. But once everything is completed and you're entering into the legal profession
How
itself,
about 8 A's? You won't agree also.
Sorry?
8 A's you also won't agree. But that's what happened now. I mean, if you want to go and do a particular course, medicine or engineering, don't you have that criteria of how many A's before you can go in?
Yeah, it's not that high as well.
Yeah. But it's a matter of degree. isn't
Yeah.
it? But every subject, every course has a certain minimum criteria.
Yes.
What I'm saying is, shouldn't you have the same for law?
I'm sure there's a minimum. You can't be like failing all your subjects and doing law.
No,
I'm not
I'm
sure
talking
what
about
is
failing.
what
I'm
is the
talking about-
requirement right now.
Yeah, but don't you think there should be a higher grade?
No, not when they're 17 years old. When you're 17, you still think everything is fun. People may not be taking exams seriously when you're 17. So I think at that point, they still should be given a chance. And maybe like what Datuk mentioned, having a standardized exam after you're done with your degree.
Why don't we have a
Then I would
standardized
agree.
exam?
I'm not sure why we don't have it, but we should have
I'm
it.
sure you know, but you don't want to say it. This is the problem in our country. We know the problem, but we don't want to say it.
No,
You
but
know
I'm
the
sure
problem.
I think even in 2008, this was an issue.
Yeah.
When there was calls for CLP to be removed and for that to be a standardized
So why
exam.
didn't it happen?
I'm not sure. I think Datuk knows as well. I think you know better why it didn't happen, Datuk.
No.
But I do
I
think
have
that's
my views,
important.
but I find it difficult to accept that we are talking about a profession, law, and we have different entry points, different standards.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I, who have done
It's
CLP,
not good for the profession.
Yes. And I, who have done CLP, I've actually seen how, CLP is not the best thing. And you see, for example, my friends who did the bar, they come back and they're trained in advocacy skills. They're good at it. But they don't know local law. They don't know Malaysian law, civil procedure. And then you have the CLP students who've just spent an entire year memorizing case laws. We know how the legal system works. But we lack in terms of advocacy skills. So I feel what's important is to have something in between. And then you also have the local students. So I've had the opportunity to interview a few students from the local universities, and I realized that even they have a very different set of exams. I was surprised to find out one university, for criminal law, their exams was multiple choice questions.
What?
Multiple choice questions. How can you have MCQ for law? So I thought that was a bit ridiculous. Like, how are you going to write written submissions when you are done? If you were to have a criminal file, how are you going to write written submissions? So I was a bit surprised. So at that point is when I realized that, what we need? We need a centralized exam for all. And something which has to be catered to meet in between the importance of knowing Malaysian legal system, the Malaysian civil procedure and criminal procedure as well, and advocacy skill. It's not just one.
Okay, Magita, we'll take a break before we come to the last part. The last part, we'll talk a bit more about the courts where you all do your work.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.